In the United States, 2.1 million people are behind bars, a higher percentage than any other industrialized nation. More than 600,000 of these inmates, who are disproportionately people of color, are released from prison each year. Significant numbers of them are unprepared for life on the outside, and they are often returning to disadvantaged communities that are ill-equipped to handle them. Houses of worship, whether a storefront or megachurch, a synagogue or a mosque, have been the staging grounds for social change. They have provided healing to injured souls, been a refuge for families in distressed neighborhoods, and have helped connect inmates with their faith traditions while in prison. The African American church has garnered the attention and loyalty of its people throughout generations. Today, it faces another crisis for which it is called upon to serve as an intercessor. Until the knock on the door becomes personal, it is easy, even for people of faith, to go about the daily routines of life without connection to the joblessness, homelessness, addiction, and other ills facing men and women struggling to return to society following incarceration. Far too often, the church responds to these issues too late, after a crime has been recommitted or a tragedy occurs. In rallying the armies of faith, justice, and compassion, a call has gone out to communities of faith to rethink their traditional ministries.
It is absolutely necessary for churches to now redefine their role in relation to incarcerated people and ex-inmates in a more outside the wall support network, and not simply going to prisons to visit or conduct worship services. That's too easy. It's important ministry, it's good work, but it's too easy.
As a chaplain working in the Federal Bureau of Prisons, I realized firsthand how the church was not being able to be involved in a greater portion of prison ministry. For the most part, the church was only engaged in the worship element of coming inside the prison. But in this day and time, there's much more that the churches can do by working on the outside as well as working on the inside to help facilitate transition and healing.
To begin to affect change, communities of faith must connect reentry issues and facts to the personal lives of returning former inmates and their families. Then we can ask ourselves, what role can communities of faith play in helping men and women who were formerly incarcerated to build strong, stable futures? Knowing the impact of imprisonment and release on families and communities, what can houses of worship, their leaders and congregants do to address issues of justice and reentry? How can family bonds be strengthened? Are there ways to help families cope with the period of incarceration as well as release? In what ways can faith leaders establish partnerships with those already engaged in reentry? These are just some of the questions that will be addressed in To Serve This Present Age, Reentering Through Faith. One of the first things that faith-based institutions and houses of worship can do is to be more welcoming, something heard often from the people we spoke with who were struggling to reconnect with their families and communities. Already daunted by an imprisonment that fosters low self-esteem, anxiety, and a sense of hopelessness, they often return to their communities and the doorsteps of churches only to be turned away. Unfortunately, many congregations already strained by fulfilling the basic needs of their own worship may consider these present-day prodigal sons and daughters an added burden they cannot bear.
The churches that were all around were not about helping the criminal, at least to help you come in come in and get your life together. I'm sure churches had opened their doors in soup kitchens, and we'll give you clothes, and we'll do this, but I didn't need that. I needed discipleship. I need somebody to not move in with me or me move in with them, but I needed some leadership in my life.
They don't do a good job of absorbing, bringing our type of people into the church. You know, it's no problem with the ones you already got in the church. You need to be trying to bring the ones that's out in, you know, so that's the problem.
Reverend Janice Thompson is a chaplain at the J.J. Moran Medium Security Facility in the Rhode Island Department of Corrections. She says that although she witnessed men and women who had undergone spiritual transformation while in prison, once they were released, they recidivated and returned to prison void of all the conviction to make it that they had attained before their release.
And I began to understand as they told me that they went to church, but they didn't feel comfortable in church. They didn't feel accepted by the church members, and they were just sort of lost in that area. And it's really important and essential that they continue their spiritual journey.
As a criminal justice professional and a person of faith, Reverend Thompson recognized the issue of reentry from both sides and was led to found the River of Life Church in downtown Providence, Rhode Island.
I think that we need to go back to the Bible, and Matthew 25 tells us that we are to feed the hungry and to clothe the naked and to visit the sick and to minister to those in prisons. And we do all the other four fine, except when it comes to ministering to those in prison. We act like that was just something aside that the Lord told us to do, and it really isn't grouped in with the rest of the ministries that we're supposed to be doing. But we're supposed to minister to those who are in prison. And if you minister to those in prison, you'll find yourself doing all the others because they need to be fed. They come out without any clothes. They're homeless and they're sick.
So many men develop themselves while incarcerated, and they're able to explore their beliefs and faith. But again, upon being released, there are a lot of doors still closed to them, and sadly enough, a lot of them are at churches.
We have to be there in that first 48 hours, those critical hours when newly released inmates need support. They need questions answered. They need orientation to the new world that they're having to survive in. They need someone to provide those basics of shelter and food and helping them plan a better life. And I think that the whole phenomena of prison aftercare has to find its way onto the ministry agenda, not just the mega churches and the large congregation, but even smaller churches, churches with 20 or 30 members can do something, even if they adopt one ex-inmate.
The Reentry National Media Outreach Campaign, in collaboration with the Annie E. Casey Foundation and the National Alliance of Faith and Justice of the National Association of Blacks in Criminal Justice, has determined that people coming out of jail or prison need others who have compassion and commitment to help support their life changes. To serve this present age, Reentering Through Faith helps faith-based institutions to understand the complex issues surrounding successful reentry, as well as to explore ways to restructure or establish ministry to those who are most affected. Information and programs on this video production are organized according to the following 5 themes: reentry support and mentoring of formerly incarcerated men and women, mentoring children of prisoners, partnerships and collaborations, strengthening families and communities, and disproportionate minority confinement. Suggested strategies follow each module.
Those neighbors who have served time and are now out are already in our congregations. We may not know it. And so another, I think, expectation and demand on the church will be to acknowledge these realities that are already here in our communities and to be creative and proactive in helping to name those issues and offer programs and support Identify 3 or 4 people in your congregation that can get the training they need and really develop some expertise in how we help walk with those sisters and brothers until they can be self-sufficient.
There is little debate that as the correctional system continues to be overloaded, many formerly incarcerated people are released without institutional support. This transition is made particularly difficult as former prisoners attempt to reconnect with families, find housing and employment, and access necessary substance abuse and health treatment. The void resulting from limited parole supervision and aftercare programs for former prisoners is being filled in part by faith-based organizations that have become vital service providers for men and women while in prison and after release. Providing affordable housing is a critical component in assisting the reentry of adult offenders. In Des Moines, Iowa, the Hanson House of Hospitality was founded 25 years ago by Bob Cook, a Presbyterian minister who opened his home to men who were coming out of prison. They may stay here absolutely free, as long as they remain drug-free, find a job, and save their money so they can move into their own place. The house is able to accommodate only 10 residents, including its current director, Mario Hazlett.
So, you're gonna have some baked chicken, some corn. I love the church. Oh, this is a beautiful thing. But talk about the real issues, okay? People, they got real feelings. I got real emotions here, okay? But we'll sugarcoat it. You see what I'm saying? Oh, praise the Lord, brother. Everything's going all right. And on the inside, you burning. Be for real. Cut it out. Stop that. Okay, we dealing with real issues. Don't play with the people like that. If you're gonna make Christianity attractive, hey, I got struggles here, but I know where to take them to. I can call somebody. I know what to do. I know who I can call. Okay, stop the sugarcoating. Cause see, if you let everybody see your life all easy cheesy, you see what I'm saying? Everything is all right. They're gonna be like, I don't think I can live like that. Cause everything is not all right. Tell the truth.
Mario came to Hanson House in May 2001 directly from prison. As a resident, he was able to find work and move into his own place within 2 months. Mario was then asked to serve on the board of directors and later to be the house director.
There's zero tolerance on drugs and alcohol. That's one. The second thing is you are going to stay out of the criminal justice system. You will not commit criminal activity while you live in this house. You won't even drive your car without a driver's license. We want you to have your seatbelt on when you get in the car. Okay? Because we want you to stay out of the criminal justice system. We want you to find employment. We will assist you in finding employment. We will go through the interview process with you. We will scout out jobs for you. We will call employers for you. We will do whatever it takes for you to get a job. We'll buy you a bus pass. Heck, I'll take you in the car to get a job. I'll take you in my own car to see about a job. And then we want you to save your money and move into your own living situation.
Bill Roberts is a former resident who has his own place now, but continues to visit Hanson House on a regular basis.
I got a job right away as soon as I come out. I was real fortunate, and it's the best environment I could have ever possibly been in was coming here, because it's really helped my life, because I know I would have been back to doing drugs had I not come here.
We have some incredible folks in our lives. We do get some grants from the city of Des Moines, community development block grants. We also get a grant from Homeless Shelter Operations Grant, which is a grant that comes from HUD. FEMA gives us money as well. But to make those other ends meet, those staples, we have churches who send money. We have organizations, private clubs that send us money. We have private citizens that sends us money. We have one elderly couple who has sent us $5 for the last 20 years every month faithfully. With that, we're able to survive and sustain and to supply all of these things. The grace of God does rest upon this place.
Mario also participates in weekly Keys meetings, a faith-based support program for formerly incarcerated men and women that is a part of the Des Moines Area Community College Reentry program.
So when I think about doing something stupid, I think about me hating going back to prison. But I have what made people forget? The pain that they had while they was in prison and then go right back. I'm not grasping that.
I don't want to go back to that, especially now that both my kids are in my life. I'm not giving that up for nothing, for nobody. I'm not gonna let them down like that, Mario. You know, I've been given a second chance, not only at freedom, but as a parent, as a brother, as a son, you know, and I'm not giving that up.
Just welcoming people, just greeting them could change a person's life. And in the faith community has become almost as if they're snobs. They'll snub their nose at these folks who's had a little hard luck, who made a mistake in life. And praise Jesus that he didn't act like that. Because if he would have snubbed his nose at the world, at those who made a mistake, they might not be where they are now. So the church, there's so many things the churches can do. We don't need just your money. We need some of your time. We need some of your kindness. We need some of your forgiveness. We need some of your acceptance, the very thing that Christ gives to us.
Just outside the Des Moines city limits, the Cornerstone Family Church has a history of ministering to those Pastor Dan Berry says no one else wants. The church is expanding its prison ministry by providing mentors to men and women coming out of jail or prison.
We've tried to minister to our own congregation to prepare them for the fact that this people group, the people that nobody really wants, are going to be coming into our house. And so it's a ministry that anybody can do, whether small or large. It doesn't matter how big the church is or how small the church is. There's a place to do this kind of ministry, and I believe that God would put his hand on this kind of ministry if you just step out and do it.
Cornerstone's programs include a prison letter writing program called Jeremiah's Letter, and mentoring programs for men and women, including one called Shalom Shalom, that provides mentors to men who live at the Bridges of Iowa facility, a faith-based reentry program providing substance abuse treatment.
Supporting people who are reentering society fundamentally is a transformation issue, and transformation takes time, and the church, with its volume of volunteers, is uniquely equipped to stand in relation across a long period of time.
It's like Pastor Dan says, this is a church where they take people in where nobody else wants them, and that's when he said that was a big deal for me, because a lot of churches turn people away. I really don't want too much involvement or get involved with their lives or stuff that's going on.
Terry McClanahan was in law enforcement before becoming a leader in the Shalom Shalom Men's Support Group.
With the background that I've got, I really wasn't looking to do this until my pastor came up to me and asked me about it. It was a difficult decision at first, and I said, well, you know, I would just research it and see, but there was a phenomenal change in my heart about it, and this is what I really enjoy to do, and this is what I feel like I'm really called to do this now.
Stephen Levitt visits with Ricky Wilcox at the Rhode Island Department of Corrections Minimum Security Facility every week. A regular volunteer at his synagogue, he was interested in doing volunteer work at the Department of Corrections. They referred him to the Family Life Center in Providence, which offered him the opportunity to become a pre-release mentor. Rhode Island, a few correctional systems around the country, and even some private industry employers are among those who have acknowledged the value of a mentor in the life of a former inmate. Mentors promote self-sufficiency in offenders and can encourage resilience and resolve when the former offender seems overwhelmed by despair or tempted by wrongdoing. Having undergone stringent background checks and specialized training, volunteer mentors can become a trusted lifeline back to the community.
I went through a 4-week training session, do's and don'ts, and what we can do and what we shouldn't do, which was very, very interesting. And we all graduated from there, and then Approximately 7 months after that, and I was matched up with Ricky.
So like now I can talk to Steve. Before I didn't have no positive people in my life to talk to besides my wife or her family, and I never opened up to them. So now I feel like I got Steve to call for anything, and I believe he'll be there for me.
I've told him I'll be with him whenever he needs. I'm not going to jump in on his privacy. I'm not going to invade his privacy. If he wants, I'm around, and it'll be a good test when he gets out, but I'll bet all the money in the world he'll do fine.
Michelle Sullivan is the program coordinator for the Family Life Center's mentoring program and offers the following advice to anyone seeking to do this type of work.
For people who are interested in starting a mentoring ministry, let's say, I would begin to do research to find out the need, first of all, and then network with partners in the community, probably starting with your faith-based churches and other organizations that would like to participate, and recruit from there. Speak to the leaders, and then have the leaders point out people who are interested in becoming mentors, and then begin a training program for them. And definitely networking with the Department of Corrections.
With the primary goal of increasing public safety, the Family Life Center was formed by a cadre of faith-based organizations and community groups. They came together with the Department of Corrections to address the large number of people returning to the South Providence community from jail or prison.
We work with people while they're still incarcerated for 6 months prior to release, and we begin by doing lots of planning. We use all the state-of-the-art assessment tools that are used in corrections to do planning and assessment, and then we create a plan for them for when they're released, and the plan includes about 16 life areas. And then we try to work with them while they're still incarcerated to begin to take steps towards that plan.
We can't just think about giving them jobs and clothes and food and housing and expect them to make it on their own, because if we're truly coming together as a faith-based group, then we need to start them off with having a faith not only in themselves but in something bigger than themselves, because apparently of self they haven't been able to achieve anything that's rewarding in their lives.
In my ministry, I have across the board Rastafarian, Muslim, Christian, and I don't ask people what faith tradition they came from, and I don't ask them to accept Islam either, because our job, in my opinion, is not to make them a convert to your particular faith, because as you said, there are a lot of brothers out here and sisters who have no particular faith that they belong to. But our job is to try to cultivate and nurture that godly spirit that's in them, regardless of what faith tradition we come from.
As you know, we're here to deal with mentoring of offenders and reentry of offenders.
People become mentors because they want to make a difference in the lives of others. Since mentoring requires establishing a personal relationship in the life of an offender, faith leaders and laypersons need to gain skills in communication and relationship building. They also need to understand the accountability processes of working with custodial and governmental authorities on reentry matters. Training must be administered with patience and a keen level of cultural competence in order to take root.
This is the epitome of what we're trying to get you to understand. This is a person who needs somebody to be able to relate to talk to share with, to be able to find himself with, to be able even to confide with.
Peace Baptist Church in Washington, D.C. is located in a ward to which many of the district's inmates eventually return. Pastor Michael Bell, a member of the Progressive National Baptist Convention, asked the National Alliance of Faith and Justice to provide the necessary training for members of his congregation to become mentors.
The church then can step up and say, but hey, you're our family. We welcome you back into the community. We want to help you work through whatever issues you may have. We may not be able to do a lot of things for you, except provide you with love, care, hope, a faith-based platform of which you can build your life anew. And I think that that is, in my view, a little better than just simply having 5 or 10 persons to go periodically in and preach and pray and sing. Nothing wrong with that. It's just that my calling is, let's do a little more than that. Work with the children, work with the adults who are ex-offenders.
The one thing that the church doesn't do is take advantage of the resources that you have within it.
Right.
You have people who've been through these situations that have overcome. Those people make a good ministry within a ministry to help educate you as you go out to deal with this population.
That's right.
Because they know what the deal is.
I think that to some extent, the training is a mirror, and the training helps people to begin to analyze how they have or have not dealt with certain issues that relate to this whole stigma of prison and incarceration, etc. We've all done something wrong. It's just a matter of whether those things that we've done wrong have been crimes against humanity or crimes against the law.
People who get involved in ministry find that while they're trying to help other people, God is healing issues or concerns that they have that supposedly no one knows about. Of course, now we challenge people all the time to be very transparent, take the risk of being vulnerable, have a sense of integrity that you can simply be honest. You don't have to hold your head down because in life you made bad choices or bad decisions. It's not what you've already done, it's what you're going to do next.
In some cases, mentoring happens on a more informal basis, when leaders in the faith community develop one-on-one relationships with individuals who have spent time in the criminal justice system. Felicia Delgado was in and out of jail. A vicious cycle, she says, was caused by her addiction to crack cocaine. It also resulted in the courts taking away her 4 children. While in prison, she met Reverend Robin Fry, who took a personal interest in her when she was doing prison ministry at the Women's Correctional Facility in Rhode Island.
First, I met her in prison, and she had told me about this ministry. And Robin would always, I believe, give me some extra care in the prison, because when I was in prison, I was always highly medicated, but my soul continued to cry out, but all I could do was rock back and forth in the chapel.
When I met Felicia, you know, she was like a newborn, you know, a newborn babe, you know, and, you know, seeing her, I always give the analogy of these women coming out of their old past and being born into a new life and a new opportunity. You know, I was the one that had to wipe the afterbirth off of her whenever that stuff was still on her, you know, when she would roll her eyes when I told her to do something, or, you know, when she would suck her teeth, or, you know, that kind of stuff. You know, I was able to start to help her, looking beyond it just like you would with an infant, you know, knowing that the infant is going to cry when it's hungry because that's the only language that it has right now. You know, in the same way, you know, when she went through things emotionally in the process of growing up spiritually, you know, that I was there with her.
Reverend Fry has a special passion for this work, inspired by her personal experiences with addiction to crack cocaine and alcohol, and eventually imprisonment.
Having been given the advantage of being able to make it and having people in my life that were such a support system to me, I want to be able to do that for someone else. I want people that I know who are sitting, you know, in some correctional facility or institution in the state of Rhode Island, specifically the women, because I go there to do prison ministry, to be able to go there and be a ray of hope for them.
A former employee of Teen Challenge, a faith-based drug treatment program, Reverend Fry referred Felicia to its Rhode Island chapter. Later, she referred her to a long-term faith-based program called New Life for Girls in Westminster, Maryland. Today, Felicia is drug-free and working at a good-paying job. Her oldest daughter is in college. Her 15-year-old is living with her, and she is in the process of regaining custody of her 2 youngest.
Churches need to come up and start really loving people. And that's the bottom line. They need to start loving them without their words, but with their actions, you know, and not just giving somebody some bread and sending them on their way. They need to put some jeans on and be in the hood. That's what they need to do. And they need to teach people, be willing to have patience if somebody's not getting it, or if somebody's not understanding it. They need to break it down. They need to show the love of God.
Strategies for reentry support and mentoring of formerly incarcerated men and women. The criminal justice system weighs most heavily upon communities of color, particularly the Black community. Over 70% of those in attendance at any worship or faith event respond that they have a family member, friend, or neighbor who is currently or has been in jail or prison. Supporting reentry should be viewed as a public safety, not a soft-on-crime initiative. When men and women re-entering their families and communities are provided with the tools and encouragement to become self-sufficient, they are moved one step closer to becoming productive citizens and are potentially less vulnerable to re-offend. Here are some ways your faith community may begin to provide re-entry supports and mentoring. Build partnerships with community-serving organizations. Consider creating a re-entry coalition. If feasible, establish a separate nonprofit organization to support your re-entry activities. Develop a strong volunteer program of dedicated volunteers. Recruit, train, support, and monitor volunteers. Work with departments of corrections, probation or parole officers, re-entry programs, and houses of worship to identify re-entering individuals. Conduct formal or informal needs assessments of populations to determine areas of need, an example, housing, job training, health issues, or employment counseling. Identify local contacts and sources willing to provide needed services to re-entering former prisoners in housing, job training, as well as those able to provide resources such as expertise, funding, or space to support your congregation's re-entry efforts. Obtain specialized training and materials to establish a sound mentoring program. Provide ongoing support to mentors and program monitoring. Evaluate results and refine ministries or programs.